Hello and welcome to the Sound Lab podcast interviews, unedited. On today's show, interviews with Laura Evans, All Ears Avow, DZ Deathrays, Chris Gregory, plus we throw back in time to Slam Dunk Festival 2023 to chat to Maggie Lindemann. So without further ado, let's kick off with our first interview from Laura Evans, who has a new album out this week, and we had a chat with her all about it. So Laura Evans, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, yeah, not too bad, thanks so much. So we've been playing a single of yours called Honest. Tell us a bit about the single, first of all.
Well, Honest is the first single from my brand new album, Out of the Dark. And yeah, it was one of the first songs I started writing for the album, which I co-wrote with my producer, Ian Barter. And it's kind of like a happy love song, really. It's like nothing else I've ever written before. So it was kind of exciting when we started the process.
Yeah, good. And that is off your new record, as mentioned, Out of the Dark, which is coming on October 17th. What can we expect to hear on the record?
Well, it's a 12-track album, and I'm super proud of it. I really kind of worked really hard on all the songs, and there's a little bit of everything, a little bit of blues, pop, soul. Yeah, it's a lot. There's even an interlude, actually. I've never written an interlude before on an album, but that's on there, so yeah.
What was the reason behind doing the interlude?
Well, the lyric from the first track, Wherever You Are, inspired the title of the album, but I didn't have a song called Out of the Dark. So I wrote an interlude titled Out of the Dark to kind of tie it all together.
Nice, yeah, nice. And the sound that you've made with this record, is it the sound you wanted, or is it kind of how it turned out in the studio?
Yeah, it's definitely the sound I wanted. I wanted a slightly more polished sound on this record, and it's stuff that was a bit poppier. But I've got a lot of blues and soul songs on there. But yeah, working with Ian was great. It was a great process. We kind of got the sound we wanted for sure.
Yeah, it's good. And I'm sure you wrote more than what made it onto the record. What happens to those now? Do you consider them again down the line, or is it a case of starting afresh when the time comes?
Yeah, I some songs just didn't make the cut. I'm debating whether to make a B-sides album because there's about 10 songs that just didn't make it on that I might do in my live shows, but yeah, who knows? I might add one or two to other albums in the future.
Nice. And when it comes to the writing side of things, how do tracks normally start off for you?
For me, they always start with a melody. I always come up with a melody first, and then I usually sit with a co-writer or producer, and we come up with the lyric. But yeah, I don't know. Every process is different, actually. Sometimes I do come up with the lyric, but mostly it's melody first.
And obviously, there's multiple layers to the instrumentation as well. How involved are you in kind of the entire track, kind of all the layers of it, as opposed to just the vocal and the melody?
Well, I work really closely with Ian on the production, actually. So we would sit there and build up the track together. I mean, he plays everything, so he's a genius. And then we would throw everything at it and then take stuff away and then go back and forth. So yeah, I would like to say I co-produced it in a way because I did, it was all about the sound we wanted and little nuances that we wanted to include to kind of make it unique.
Yeah, for sure. And when you start off with the melody, how easy do you find it to create those lyrics to fit to what you've already created?
Um, yeah, the melody usually dictates the lyric. So I usually come up with one word or something when I'm like jamming. There's usually a lyric that pops out, and then that kind of helps with the process. But writing is such a magical process. It's quite hard to explain. I might video one session one day to show everyone how it all comes together. But yeah, and there were some things I wanted to say on this album. So a lot of stuff is really personal. So that definitely led the lyrics and the stories I wanted to tell.
Nice. And you've got a busy month coming up because you've got some shows coming across the
Yeah.
UK in November. I bet you can't wait to be on the road again.
Yes, I'm super excited. Yeah, my UK tour kicks off in November. So we're going all across the country. Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously this is just UK dates at present. Are you hoping to go overseas as well at some point?
Yes, we are hoping to go to Europe next year. We're looking at doing September in Europe and yeah, Germany and France and some shows in Belgium as well.
Good. And obviously, what else do you have planned for 2026? Is it just going to be shows, or are you hoping to do festivals as well, writing back in the studio again?
Yeah, there'll definitely be some festivals, I'm sure, in the summer. I have been writing some more. There's some collaborations in the pipeline. And then like I said, there's a lot of songs, so we might reimagine some stuff for next year and do some live stuff and acoustic versions. So yeah, I'm looking forward to stay. I'm not ready to let go of these songs. I kind of want to hold on to them for a while, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And you didn't originally start off in the music world. You started off doing some acting. Not too much acting at present. Are you hoping to get back on stage or back on TV as well at some point?
Um, I don't think so. I think my acting days are over. I had a lovely time acting and I had some great times, but it's all about the music now, really. I'm kind of on this journey and it's like I just love it. So I'm going to stick with the music for, well, who knows? Never say never, but hey.
Yeah, for sure. The reason why I asked is because the Basil Brush show was my youth, is what I used to watch on
Oh,
TV.
really?
Tell us a bit about what it was like to be on the Basil Brush show.
It was amazing actually. It was a little detour in my career when I was like 19, 20. And I thought I was going to go in for one episode. I was auditioning for an episode as Madison. And little did I know it was the whole series. And then they wrote me in for four more series. So what I thought was one episode turned into 4 years of work, which was incredible. I've got nothing. I have only but love for that show. And it was just amazing experience. We laughed a lot. It was so much fun.
Yeah, what was it like talking to Basil Brush himself, knowing that there's someone underneath talking rather than him?
It was so funny. I'm a bit of a giggler. I'm terrible for laughing, which is probably a bit unprofessional. It's probably why I've never pursued my acting career. But I just giggled a lot. And Basil is very, very funny. There was just so much fun. It was very relaxed. And I just remember we laughed a lot on set. Yeah.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Laura Evans to talk about her new record and more. Now, we are all over social media at The Sound Lab, yes, on all the socials. And you can also check out the website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk. So while you go and find us on all the socials and give us some follows, we've got our next interview from All Ears Avow. They released a brand new record last week and we had a chat with them all about it. So, All Ears Avow, how are you?
Yeah, good man. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. So we've been playing a new single of yours called A Night Like This. Tell us a bit about the single, first of all.
Oh, wicked man. Thank you. Yeah, a night like this. It is the final single really before the record drops, which it just feels insane that we're saying that and we're at that point.
Yeah, it's less than a week to go now to the album.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's one of those tunes that really encapsulates sort of like All Ears in terms of it being like a big poppy banger with big riffs.
But yeah, just sort of like, yeah, super catchy, super bouncy. It's one of those songs that like, people just want to jump up and down to live, which is kind of exactly what we wanted really. So yeah, it's a great tune. It's really, really good fun. And it's kind of like got some cool themes behind it and stuff as well. So
yeah, with a very tongue-in-cheek music video as well.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. What was it like recording the video?
It was a task. I think, don't get me wrong, us two got off lightly in comparison to Claire being buried and learning the dance routine and stuff. But I think the biggest shell shock, we shot it in August, so sunlight is at an all-time high, and when we're not all spring chickens anymore. So the idea of being like, right, we'll meet at like 10 o'clock to start filming this, so because the sunlight's finally gone, was a bit of a
yeah, so
shot, wasn't it?
lots of just kind of like darting around different areas in the dark, just sort of like trying to get these like little shots between all of the sort of main bits in the video. Yeah, it was good fun.
And yeah, I'm sure people that saw us from afar were like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, wandering around the streets of Swindon at 11:30 at night with a crucifix and stuff. So it was,
And there was
Wish I drove past now.
yeah, there was a weird point when we did this at the start where Claire stands up in the graveyard shot. Obviously, we didn't make the fake grave in a graveyard, but there's the scene where she's walking through a graveyard, and we saw like a flash of light, didn't we? And we were like, someone was definitely like, "What are these kids up to with a camera in a graveyard at like quarter to midnight or something?"
It sounds like an experience. But the video itself leads quite well to the title of your debut record, Horrors. What can we expect to hear on the record when it comes out on the 10th of October?
Oh.
Yeah, literally Friday. We can officially say Friday now. It comes out on Friday.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I think we've done 5 singles in total off the record now, which
Yeah.
leaves 6 to come. Um, and I think the tracks that remain to be released are quite different in places to what I think people expect. There's as a whole cohesive thing. I think the record um, starts off in angst and it sort of ends in like positivity and like looking at, then maybe not everything is as terrible as we currently feel like it is living through. Um, yeah, I feel like I'm talking about you,
No,
you
no,
go.
no. It's got, and there's quite a wide variety of sort of styles and stuff on there as well. Like, we've got some like super fast, like upbeat ones. We've got some more kind of chilled out, sort of slowed ones as well, which people haven't heard yet. So yeah, I think it kind of, yeah, and not only does it kind of encapsulate a lot of different feelings and stuff like that, but also just lots, a few different styles and different paces and stuff like that that people maybe have not necessarily kind of heard from us before as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, nice. And the sound that you made with the record, is it the sound you wanted, or is it kind of just how it turned out as you were writing and recording it?
I I I would say yes. So Claire does all of the writing, and she works as a producer, so she produces the band as well. But I think it because how a lot of these things start with us is that we don't go right. We're going to do an EP next, or in this case, an album. Claire will just be feeling really inspired and smash a few tracks out, and I feel like it then, as it happens, formulates where we're going with this. If that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, I know she said previously, like talking about it, that we are not really a political band. And full respect to bands that do that. It's just not really our thing. But I think with everything that's been going on in the world, realistically, in the last 5 years, I think it's hard to ignore, and I think that has been coming through. Um, like tunes like "Burn on a Wire" and stuff. I think
Yeah,
there's a
absolutely.
real and again the video behind it as well. There's like a strong political sort of inspiration, I guess, if that makes sense. Because it's where we're all living in. We're living it every day.
Yeah. It's
No, yeah,
interesting. It's interesting
yeah.
as well, though, just because like a lot of these songs, as sort of Jake was saying, like Claire does all the writing and stuff, but a lot of these songs are written quite far apart, and they've kind of all come together really quite nicely, actually.
Mm,
It's interesting, like considering some of the songs were written sort of like quite a distance apart. Like it's really cool how they actually all kind of fit together and sort of like listening through to the record and stuff. It all really works, and it really flows quite nicely, even though like Jay said, it wasn't necessarily written with originally with the intention of it being all of these songs are going to be on an album. So yeah, it's cool.
Hmm. And how much does Claire bring to the table when she comes to you with a song? Is it kind of all done and your parts are written as well, or how much of influence do you have on it too?
pretty, she's pretty much like, here's a demo, but it's to the point it could be produced. It could be put out a lot of the time. She's like so meticulous in her ideas. She's not like she'll come with a riff or whatever. It's like a fully fledged thing. Don't get me wrong, she's open to ideas as well. And at the point of the studio, when you're doing drums or whatever, you might expand on stuff or
Yeah, for sure. There's always like little tweaks and stuff that are made in the recording process. But yeah, like Jake said, very much kind of like she gets an idea and it's just like do everything, drums, guitars, all that kind of stuff is on there. And then yeah, it's the fine tuning bits that that kind of come afterwards. But
mm.
yeah.
Hmm. Has she ever overdone it with the drums for you to go, actually, I can't physically do that?
I mean, it's interesting. I always say this to people actually. Like, it's interesting playing parts that aren't written by a drummer, because, and I quite like it in a lot of ways because it's not it's not the obvious thing. I think drummers in particular are kind of, or any, I guess if you play any instrument, I guess you almost a lot of the time you fall into the trap of being a bit more safe, and you kind of like you want to do stuff that whereas if you're playing a drum part, for example, that's written by a non-drummer, they don't always write the obvious kind of thing, and it makes you kind of think outside the box a little bit more. And there have been times where I've been a little bit like, oh, how am I gonna actually sort of do that. And we always work it out. Sometimes maybe we have to tweak things a little bit. I mean, there's not ever been anything that's been like completely impossible to play. But like, yeah, I actually really like working that way because yeah, it just makes me think about what I'm doing a little bit more. And yeah, it's not always what you might expect a drummer to do, which I quite like.
Good. And I'm sure there was more written than what made it onto this record. Do you know what happens to those now? Are they considered again further down the line, or is it a case of
Yeah,
starting afresh?
that's exactly it. I mean, and a case in point to that is there's a tune on the record called "For Once in Your Life" that has been around for years. Like, I would hazard a guess 7 or 8 years.
It's certainly been on the fridge for a while.
And and we just sort of remains there, and then yeah, we'll readdress it. And again, I think we have like a folder on our Dropbox, and I think Claire was literally going through it and was like, I think this would like let's have a stab at this again within the record. So again, they'd sort of end up on the proverbial fridge, as you put it. Yeah,
yeah. So those other tracks that didn't make it on this record are probably they'll make it on something else, I'm sure, at some point.
Mm.
Mm. And you said that track's been around for years. You guys have been around for quite a few years now.
Yeah.
How come it's taken so long to get to this debut record?
Anxiety from doing a debut record, I feel.
Yeah, I guess so. I think there's a real pressure, I think, at the moment within the music industry to want it for it to be kind of like single, 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 and people kind of want that instant gratification, I think. And so we've been focusing for a long time on putting out singles and like shorter kind of like collections of songs like EPs and stuff because you kind of get trained into sort of like thinking that's what people want, but like yeah, so I think we've kind of as Jake said, there's almost been a sort of anxiety about it, like whether putting all that kind of time and money into something is going to be not wasted, but what I mean, like so I think that's maybe part of it. So yeah, I think maybe that's why it's taken as long as it has, but
Yeah, fair enough. And this past month you've been quite busy as well. You've been on the road and doing some shows. How have they been going down?
Yeah, really good. And it's the majority of the set list has been the record, which has been really fun. Like cutting our teeth and like getting those songs played live just completely changes it. And I also think that adds to the excitement of getting the record out. Like there's a tune that closes the record called Fire that we've been equally closing the set with, and every night I'm looking at people, I'm like, I just wish you knew it. I'm really looking forward to this being out, and yeah. But yeah, the shows have been great. They've all been wicked. We've been back to a lot of places we haven't been in a very long time. Like we haven't like going back to London and stuff. Like London is always typically an important show as a UK band, and that was so good. It was good to be
really
back
good.
after so many years. And Salisbury, again, we worked out that we hadn't been back to Salisbury in like sort of 7 or 8 years. And because just the stars never aligned really. It was the same venue and stuff. I'd send the promoter the dates when we were booking, and it was just never seemed to work. But there were people that were at that show that were like, "Oh, we haven't seen you lot in 8 years." So it's like it's really cool from a fan retention point of view.
Well, yeah, equally, yeah, that they're still interested.
Yeah.
After that, after that long,
People just kept being like, "We'll see if you're as good now as you were 8 years ago."
No, indeed. And you've only got a few more shows left booked in. Are you hoping to add some more in?
Yeah, next year it's going to be really busy. We are just sort of lining stuff up, and then there's some shows in March to be announced that are just kind of getting locked in now. But yeah, I think the plan next year is just to play, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And are you hoping to go overseas as well?
Always. Yeah, again, it's a more complicated thing, sort of post Brexit and stuff. And it's a bucket list thing we've never done. So never say never. Hopefully, we shall see. We certainly would love to.
Yeah, I'm sure, and I'm sure festivals are on the cards for next year as well.
We absolutely hope so. Yeah, we've just announced at the start of next year We Are One Festival, which is really cool. Which is headlined by. Is it Cassiette?
Cassiette on the Saturday.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Vukovi on the Sunday, which I'm really stoked about. at the Tram Shed in Cardiff. We've never done that before.
No.
It's a bucket list venue.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we shall see. Hopefully, Download will have us back.
Yeah, indeed. Or where I met you last at 2000 Trees, where that was a few years ago now.
Oh yeah, man. We adored Trees as a band.
Yeah,
We would love to come back.
Sure.
And it's local to both of us, right, Jim?
Yeah, no, indeed. Yeah, I think it's about half an hour for me, so I can stay at home and sleep in bed. So
that's what we do nowadays as well. We just discuss who isn't going to have a beer that day, and we're like, well, I'll drive.
Yeah.
I want to get drunk for this band, so you drive tonight, and then we'll vice versa or whatever.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with All Ears Avow to talk about their brand new record, which is out now. Now, if you are listening to us on Spotify, then you can also find a Spotify playlist of ours. It's called Fresh. It brings you 150 brand new up-and-coming artists that we feel like you might just enjoy yourselves. And if you want to check that out, head to the website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk, and click on the Fresh playlist button. So while you go and save that playlist to listen to after the podcast, of course, we've got our next interview from DZ Deathrays, who we had a chat with at 2000 Trees Festival earlier this year. So, DZ Deathrays, how are you?
We're good, thank you. Very good.
You are here at 2000 Trees, enjoying your time back over here in the UK?
Yeah, it's been nice. I've only been here a few days, but it's been a good one.
Yeah, weather has been awesome. It's a real shame.
Maybe too hot.
Surprising.
Is this what you're used to back home?
I think a lot of the festivals aren't even in the summertime anymore.
Well, we don't really have any festivals anymore anyway.
They've all sort of
it's not
dissolved.
like this at all.
But I mean, it's weird because I feel like the UK is probably the only country in the world that's benefiting from climate change, where you're getting warmer weather and nice wine is able to be produced here.
Yeah,
so.
not as much rain, no snow anymore. It's just gradually just getting nicer.
Unfortunately, the buildings aren't really ready for that.
We're not ready for any weather at all. It's either too hot or too cold, and we're not ready. Not ready at all. But typical British way, though, isn't it? Yeah. Now you've started to release some more new music. Tell us a bit about where you're at.
Well, I just got the masters back for our new record yesterday. So, yeah, that's all kind of done and in the pipeline. And we've got today, and we've got 2 more shows in the UK after this festival, and then that's kind of us for the year. And we'll be gearing up early next year to drop a record and start doing some tours here and there and see what happens.
Yeah, nice. How's the record sounding?
I don't know. I think it's good. It's always hard to know. It's such like a weird question to answer because every record to us is really different. But then, some people like certain ones more than others. I think this one we kind of spend a bit more time just picking the songs and kind of find the ones that all fit together. It's a shorter record. It's only 10 tracks, 33 minutes, but these days that's kind of where it's at. We're just releasing as many singles off it as possible and kind of doing the rollout thing.
Yeah. And the sound you've made with this record, is it the sound you kind of wanted, or is it kind of just how it's turned out, really?
No, it's kind of a bit of a sort of preemptive. A bit of thought went into it because we wanted to do something that had a bit more of the dance elements that we had in some previous records. So we used that as like a kind of bit of an avenue. Still rock songs, but this one also has some ballads on it, like piano. I got a piano, like an electric piano a couple of years ago, so I've been slowly just figuring out how to play some chords and started writing some songs like that, which has been nice because I'm not very good at it, so that means I don't have any sort of theory or anything get in the way of writing a song. It's just whatever sounds good. So the chord inversions and stuff are always not right, but they sound right to me. So, and that's how it's actually been a really good way to write songs.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've been around for a fair few years now. You've released a few records. How does this record sound in comparison to those?
I think there's similarities. There's a lot of similarities from it. But like Shane was saying, some interesting, like we got piano on this one a bit more. But still a bunch of party vibes. So yeah, I think it stands on its own, but also fits in like the catalog really nicely.
Nice. And when it comes to writing, how do tracks normally start off for you guys?
Usually it's like Lockie or I will have a riff idea. Usually kind of try and write like a minute worth of music. You know, either a really cool riff or a verse and a chorus that is like there's something in that, and then we start working on. If we really like it, then we try and expand on it and make that into a full song. And then we just send each other files because we all live in different places, so we will send each other files and just kind of put drums on it and redo parts, and then get in the rehearsal room and kind of see how it sounds when we actually play it as a real band.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the songs we sort of there's one of the songs that I just did at home, and then some of the stuff we did in a studio, some of the stuff we did at home. You know, it's like kind of these days I feel like for us we just whenever we get an opportunity to record, we'll just try and do it. But yeah, we do a lot of stuff at home now. All backing vocals and all that sort of stuff, just do it at home. Save paying for studio time.
Yeah.
Got the same producer on this one as we did for Riff as well, Nath Sheehy. So he's definitely got a bit of a tone on there, which is good. Yeah.
Drums.
Yeah, he's a big drum guy.
Yeah, his drums are crazy big.
Nice. And you've said that you're not planning on doing much more this year. I think you've got one more show after you leave here in the UK. Are you hoping to add anything else to the diary, or is this going to be it for this year?
No, that's that'll be it for the year. We did a regional tour in Australia earlier this year, which was, you know, in touring in Australia you can only do shows Thursday. Well, not even Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday was a public holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So we were out every weekend for 11 weekends doing shows in Australia. We did like 24 shows and then toured with Death from Above and a couple more. We'll come over here, we've done another 24. So yeah, that's it for the year. We kind of want to give a little bit of a break. It's one of those things, we tour so much, either in Australia or in Europe, that we're kind of like, we need a little break before we come back with a record.
Is that because 2026 is going to be a big year for you guys? Is that the plan?
I mean, we just take it as it comes, see what happens.
Is there anywhere that you want to get to that you've not been to maybe before?
I mean, we want to go back to Canada. We were there a couple of years ago. Want to go back there. Was it last year?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what
Time
I mean.
flies. But we're going to try hit Japan, I think, this time, on the way over. We have not yet been there, which will be fun.
Yeah, that's been our goal for a long time, is to make it to Japan. I don't know why it's so hard, but we just need to find the right person who's going to be able to put us on. We'll play to no one in a Smokey dive bar, but that's fine. I just want to play there.
At least you can say you've done it.
Yeah. Yeah. Eat the food. And drink the whiskey.
I've heard good things. So
it's amazing. I went there on holidays. It's incredible. Yeah.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with DZ Deathrays from 2000 Trees Festival from earlier this year. Now, if you're loving all of today's interviews, then you'll be pleased to hear they also appear on our international radio show. They come in an edited form that comes alongside a load of new music and a live session too, and if you want to check that out, head to the website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk, and click International Radio Show. So while you go and do that, of course, to save to listen to later, we've got our final new interview, and it comes from Chris Gregory. Now, he's not a musician. He is, in fact, an author who has been writing books for many years, and he's just been, he's kind of halfway through writing his Bob Dylan trilogy. So we had a chat with him all about his new book and more. So, Chris Gregory, how are you?
All right, thanks, Jim, yeah.
Good. So the reason we're having a little chat is because you've decided to write a book about Bob Dylan. Tell us a bit about this new book of yours.
Well, my book's called Minstrel Boy, and it's the second volume in a trilogy of books called Picasso of Song, which is a very detailed account, kind of song-by-song account of all Bob Dylan's work from the earliest days right up to now. It's actually written backwards. I started by doing the later stuff, and this is part two. This is the middle period.
Nice, yeah. And speaking of you doing it kind of backwards, what was the reason behind doing that?
Well, I didn't originally intend to write a trilogy, but I thought there was a need for a book about Dylan's later work. As you may know, there are thousands of books on, but literally thousands of books analysing Bob Dylan's work. There weren't many, certainly at that time, that were looking at his work in the last kind of 30 years. Which I think is some fantastic, material there to look at. So I thought there was a need to do that. In order to do that, I started putting up podcasts. Now I run a podcast on YouTube called Bob Dylan, A Head Full of Ideas. And then I started covering all the other work. So I then kind of converted the blogs and podcasts I was doing into the next book. And I'll be hopefully finishing the third book, which is the part 3 or possibly part 1 next year. So that's how it came about. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was the reason behind splitting it into 3 books? Is it basically because there's so much to write about, or is there another reason?
Yes, because otherwise it'd be such a huge doorstop. It'd be very useful for keeping the winter winds out, but it would be huge because the books are all about 200,000 words. They are very, very, very comprehensive. Some of the songs I may spend 3,000 or 4,000 words actually talking about. Obviously, some of them are, you could write that much. Some of them you can't write very much. Some of the songs are very long and detailed. Some of the songs are very short. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned there's thousands of other Bob Dylan books. Why did you decide to write one about him as well? And what makes yours kind of different and stand out from kind of all the others?
Okay, well, I've been a Bob Dylan fan all my life since I was about 10 years old, which is quite a long time ago, back in the 60s, actually. So I've had a very strong passion for Dylan all my life. I come from a kind of literary background. I used to be a English lecturer and so on. So I kind of bring that awareness to it. I also bring a fan's awareness to it. I must say that, there are some Bob Dylan books that I've read many hundreds of them really, but some of them I really admire, but a lot of them I think are a bit too superficial. I think there's a tendency for people to try and come up with easy answers to Dylan songs. But I think the great quality of Dylan songs is really their ambiguity, which is why I'd regard them as really great poetry, because you can, like a great poem, you can read it any number of times and see something different in it. Or maybe like a great painting, you can do that as well. Dylan's works are like that, particularly not necessarily the very early ones, but later on in particular. So there is so much to kind of pick out, but I try very hard not to always come up with a definitive interpretation. Also, because Bob Dylan is a public figure, which is something he's always been very uncomfortable with, a lot of things get pinned on him. I think he avoids going on chat shows, he avoids all the trappings of celebrity. I think partly because people ask him silly, simple questions which are difficult to answer. It's not the kind of thing that most poets are actually expected to be exposed to, I suppose. So he is fascinating in that sense as well, because he is both a huge literary figure as well as a huge musical figure, and also, of course, an extremely famous person. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And this book covers his years of struggle as well. How
Yes.
kind of easy or difficult was it to kind of appreciate what he went through and put it into words for us?
Well, obviously, this is something as a fan. I bought the albums when they came out, and this is a period of 20, 23 years, and during which Dylan goes from being kind of very young to kind of middle-aged, and part of that generation of rock stars who actually were the first generation to take on growing older. So also all the vagaries of musical fashion that if you think about the particularly late 60s, 70s and 80s and how things changed that much. Now, Dylan was exposed to so much pressure. I think he was so famous when he was so young and so influential. But by the age of about 25, 26, he was finding it all too much. So he then retreated, really. The first part of the book is called Retreat, and that's about when he retreated basically to live with his wife and bring up his kids, trying to escape to a place called Woodstock in the countryside, which didn't turn out to be the greatest place to escape to, because when the Woodstock Festival happened, he found all these hippies on his lawn and he wasn't very happy about that, apparently. But during that period, his music changed and he produced, a lot of country albums with much simpler kind of expression. And then in the 70s, in the second part of the book, which is called Return, he returns and has a huge tour, which 1974, which had about 1 million applications for tickets. And suddenly, for the next few years, he's the biggest rock star in the world, and he's headlining major shows, and he's bringing out incredible albums like Blood on the Tracks, which are get incredible reviews. Some of the best work of his career, and he's going back to producing very complex symbolic poetry in his lyrics. And then the third part of the book is called Rebirth, and in 1979, I think really all the pressure kind of gets to him. A lot of people think of Bob Dylan as a kind of messiah, I suppose, and they expect him to have all the answers to everything. And by the end of the 70s, after his family life, his idyllic family life has kind of fallen apart, he's had a divorce and so on. He's also very affected by the death of Elvis Presley. And anyway, partly as a result of all of that, he becomes, for a short time, a born-again Christian. And that phase only lasts really for a couple of years. And then he kind of changes his stance, and then he has quite a struggle in the 1980s, as do a lot of rock stars from the 60s, to acclimatize to strange drum beats and the production techniques of the time. And his work is, the critical appraisal of his work really goes down. He's really struggling to get back to the heights that he was at before. And that kind of changes, I think, at the end of the 80s with albums like Oh Mercy, when he starts to kind of recapture his mojo, I think you might say. So yeah, these are definitely years of struggle. There are personal struggle, they are artistic struggle. And again, it illustrates how, someone who's such an important conscious artist has to struggle with all the constraints of fame. And I think in the years after, after the book's written, which I'll talk about in the first book, it's called Determined to Stand, he adopts a different strategy. He will only release an album every few years, whereas during this period that's covered by the book, it was expected in those days that artists would keep knocking things out. And of course, if you're a great inspirational artist, you have periods in which you're more inspired than others. And sometimes you just want to take a rest, I suppose.
Yeah, no, for sure. And sadly, I'm one of those that doesn't really like the Bob Dylan vocal style. I know there's a lot of people out there who feel the same. What would you say to people like me who feel that way?
Well, first of all, you need to go and listen to some Appalachian Mountain music. And then you have to listen to a lot of blues records, and then you listen to Bob Dylan, because people judge Bob Dylan differently because of the way he sings. If you listen to Sonny Boy Williamson or somebody, you expect there's going to be a growl like this, you see. But, Bob Dylan is not light entertainment. You don't put Bob Dylan in the background in dinner parties. You have to actually listen. So really, my approach to this is you have to think of Bob Dylan as an actor. Now, his voice, actually, if you know a lot about Bob Dylan, his voice is very, very different on almost every album. In fact, recently he's made a lot of albums singing Frank Sinatra songs, and has actually retrained his voice so that now he's singing actually a lot more melodically than he was 15 years ago. I think what it is that it demands attention. And in a lot of ways, actually, strangely enough, Dylan's first recordings before he was actually making records, he's got quite a sweet voice. So, because he was so steeped in forms of American folk music, he actually deliberately adopted this tone. Because when he first came out, a lot of the other folk singers, people like Pete Seeger and Peter, Paul, and Mary, they were very kind of radio friendly and they sounded nice and so on, you know. But Dylan never wanted to sound nice. He wanted you to really listen. And obviously, a lot of his early songs were very kind of finger pointing political songs, and he made you listen to them. So that's the trick, really. It's kind of you have to get into Bob Dylan singing, you have to adjust adjust your consciousness of that. But I mean, I would say he's one of the greatest singers ever, because you listen to Bob Dylan singing his songs and you listen to other people singing his songs. Now, some people, Dylan songs have been recorded by more than anybody else, really, because they're so adaptable to many different styles. But because he's written them, he can actually bring out the meanings of them in many different ways. And in live performance, if you go and see a Bob Dylan show now, if you're expecting him to sound like his records, you'll be very disappointed. He always reinterprets them. So really, he's evolved what I call sound poetry. So it's about your expectations of the artist. You know, they're not there to sort of make you feel nice. They're there to express the kind of feelings that great poets express. So that's what I'd say about that. It's kind of something you have to attune yourself to, I would say, but, once you do, then, you may get addicted to it and you start to discover the whole oeuvre, which is, of course, it's a little bit intimidating because obviously we've got 60 years of music there, and that's a lot to get into. So that's what I'd say about that.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And even though I'm not a personal fan, I know many people are, and we still play his music, especially the tracks from his bootleg recordings, and we've been playing them just a couple of years ago as well, because he released another volume back then. Why are these recordings kind of even just as important as his kind of original kind of mainstream releases?
Well, Bob Dylan is a very spontaneous artist. He's very famous for leaving a lot of his most famous songs like I Shall Be Released, for instance, which has become a big classic and recorded by thousands of artists probably. He never actually released them at the time. Now, what he will do, he's very much a living in the moment kind of person, I think, and he will go into a studio. He doesn't spend ages recording records. He'll go into the studio, knock something out, and then he'll move on. This is the famous phrase, "Don't look back," which a famous Bob Dylan film was named after. He's just so spontaneous that he won't go back on his old stuff. So a lot of Dylan fans would always say, particularly in the early days, that, well, you may listen to his records, but his best stuff is actually out there. And particularly with live performance again, because he changes his songs so much in live performance, that you will discover versions of the material that are very, 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 very different. Now, this is why the bootlegs are so popular. One, the unreleased songs. Two, the very different live versions. Sometimes he will, even with his most famous songs, particularly those off Blood on the Tracks, he will completely change the lyrics. Sometimes he will just improvise them and kind of make them up. So he's very unique in that way, and nobody else really does this at all. You won't see Paul Simon or Neil Young doing this, really. I don't see any other artist doing that. So he kind of stands alone with this. So the bootleg industry started with Bob Dylan in the late 60s with a record called The Great White Wonder, that collected songs from a collection of songs called the Basement Tapes, which were some of his greatest material, which was never released for years later. And his most legendary concert of all, where somebody shouts Judas at him because he had all these hardcore folkies who didn't like him going electric, of course, because they thought he was selling out. That stuff didn't get released officially for about 30 years. Now that's very much at the center of Bob Dylan's legend, and it was featured in a kind of very unhistorical way in the recent movie about Bob Dylan, which was very successful, of course. So yeah, the the CBS, the record company, or Sony, or whatever they're called, they started about 30 years ago. They started actually thinking, well, we can make a lot of money out of this, and they started releasing these massive box sets full of all this material, which now far outstrips the original material, and there's still stuff out there, you know. So it's like with other singers, you listen to their live shows, and they're trying to sound like the albums. Whereas with Bob Dylan, he's doing the opposite. And also, his performing style is very influenced by Bertolt Brecht and theatre and that kind of thing. He practices what you call alienation techniques on the audience. These days, he doesn't even speak at all to the audience. So it's a challenge to, Bob Dylan's art is always a challenge. Even now, when he's in his mid 80s, he's still challenging audiences.
Yeah, no, he is indeed. And you touched on the recent movie, A Complete Unknown. Did you like it?
Yeah. Surprisingly, yeah. I mean, people like me that are big Dylan fans, we were very suspicious about it. Oh no, he's going to be a Hollywood biopic and so on. And there was, I mean, if you watch it and think that's what really happened, I mean, it didn't. It's kind of Hollywoodized in that sense, a bit romanticized, and a lot of stuff is kind of made up. But what was really impressive was the commitment that Timothy Chalamet put into playing Bob Dylan, which was tremendous. And he doesn't try to imitate him, but he learned the guitar, and he learned how to sing, and he did a very, very, very good job. So without it being historically accurate, it does convey the atmosphere of the times, the atmosphere of Greenwich Village in the early 60s. Pays tribute to Woody Guthrie, who was a great American folk singer, was Dylan's early hero. And it was really, I mean, it's not a great, magnificent, cinematic classic, but it does justice to Bob Dylan, and I haven't really met any other Dylan fans that, really, really hate it. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you've not just written books about Bob Dylan. You've done stuff on the Beatles and The Prisoner, the TV series. Is there any other projects you've got in mind that you might want to write a book about at some point?
Yeah, I've got a head full of ideas about all this stuff. I'd like to probably write some fiction next. Possibly got a book of poetry. There are a few kind of musical books. I might write something on Richard Thompson and early Fairport. I've got a bit of a passion to do that. But I'd quite like to finish writing about Bob Dylan so I can write about other things. I'm obviously not a one-trick pony. I did write a couple of books about uh, television stuff back in the 80s, which were kind of one of them. I wrote a book on Star Trek, which was kind of manipulated a bit by the publishing company. They made me try and write it in a very academic way, and I've always although I've got a certain kind of academic background, I'm not really a university person or anything. And I've always wanted to try and write to the public and use my skills as literary skills as a poet and a writer to try and convey this stuff so that, anybody can read it, really. The books on television I did, I guess that's interesting now because television is much more mainstream now, and in a lot of ways, it's kind of ahead of films in terms of creativity and so on. The Prisoner in particular, which was late 60s TV show, way before your time, I'm sure.
I know it though. I know it.
You've seen it, have you? Yeah,
I've seen it, and the remake with Ian McKellen. So.
It stands, yeah, that wasn't too bad, was it? But it kind of stands out from all of the 60s TV, and it's influenced all the great TV series since. So I had a fascination of that from my own childhood. So yeah, I've always wanted to sort of try and talk about popular culture stuff in a way that combined a more academic point of view with a kind of popular perspective.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Chris Gregory to talk about his new book, all about Bob Dylan. Now, this is the part of the show where we like to throw back in time, and we're doing so back to Slam Dunk Festival 2023, where we had a chat with Maggie Lindemann. Yes, she transitioned from the dance pop world to the more rock side of things. We had a chat with about that as well. So, Maggie Lindemann, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. You're here at Slam Dunk.
Yes.
How's it been for you today so far?
It's been good. I just woke up like not too long ago because I'm on tour right now. So, we had a really early lobby call. So, yeah, I'm just kind of waking up.
Good. Have you recovered from the jet lag yet?
No, I haven't. It's been really beating me up. So, yeah.
Well, you're here, which is good.
Yes.
Now, you released your debut album last year. For those who haven't heard it yet, tell us a little bit about that, first of all.
Yeah, so my first album, it's just, I don't even know how to describe it. I would say it's a bunch of different genres kind of slammed into one. And, I don't know, it's just cool. It's heavier than my other stuff. And, yeah.
Was it always the plan to go that little bit heavier, or was that simply just how it turned out?
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to do some heavier stuff, but I think I just kind of did it as I went. But yeah, I definitely wanted to do something heavier. So.
And looking to the future, have you started writing for the next release yet?
Yeah, so I've started. I've been really focused on tour because I've been touring for the last couple months now. 2 months, I don't know, a couple months. Feels like forever. But so I've been kind of focusing on that, but I have been writing a little bit. So hopefully a new project at some point soon.
Yeah. Do you know what direction you want to take it in? Whether it's going to get even heavier, or whether you're going to...
I don't even know. That's what I've been trying to figure out, honestly. But I think I want to keep doing some heavier stuff. I want to try some different stuff. I don't know. I just like to make music that I've also been listening to. So that's kind of how it forms. I just like throw a bunch of stuff together.
Because at one point you did delve into the dance side of things by teaming up with Cheat Codes and that. How did that all come about?
So I don't know. I was pretty young when I did that. I think I was 17 when Pretty Girl when we first did Pretty Girl. And I don't know. I just didn't like have a specific sound yet. I just was doing kind of whatever. And Cheat Codes was on the same label as me, and kind of just happened. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't like have a sound yet, so I was just still kind of.
So you've left that dance side behind you.
Yeah.
I think for the best as well.
Yeah. Yes.
So you mentioned being on tour for the last few months. How's it been for you? Have they all been good?
It's been good. It's my first headlining tour, so it's been really fun. But yeah, it's just been cool. It's been different to have my own. Like, people that actually paid just to come see me instead of opening for someone. You know, you never know who's going to come. Might be people that don't know you, people that don't like you. You never know. So it's been really cool to just see that group of people.
Yeah, good. And when it comes to writing, how do tracks normally start off for you? Is it a melody first? Is it lyrics first? How do they tend to start off?
Usually it's the beat, production, guitar, whatever it is. And then I do, like, melody passes. And then I start writing.
Yeah. And once you've got the demo sorted, how does it then go once you step foot into the studio from that demo to a finished track?
It's a long process usually, but I don't know, just I'll just, like, me and my producer, whoever I'm working with, I don't know, we'll just go back and forth. I'll send them songs that I've been really liking, and then, like, stuff I'm hearing, whatever, and we'll just kind of go back and forth, send each other whatever, and then somehow it finishes and forms into the song.
Does the producer ever come back and just go, no, try again?
No, it's never happened yet, but I don't know, I feel like the people I work with, we're kind of usually on the same page.
Yeah.
So,
that's good.
Yeah,
good. So, looking back to when you first started, you must have been at quite a young age when you decided you wanted to do this. What was it that made you want to do this in the first place?
I always liked singing. I always liked entertaining. Like, I always knew I wanted to be an entertainer.
Yeah.
So, pretty young. I always liked to sing and dance and act and all that stuff. So, I don't know. I think just at a young age, I was like, yeah, I definitely don't want to do the school, and I didn't want to go that route. I just had a feeling. I don't know, at a really young age. So I just kind of went for it when I was like 16. Just moved to LA, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna try.
You are. And you must have aspirations of things you want to achieve. But if you had to pick the one thing that you really want to achieve in your music career, what would you choose for that to be?
I don't know. I just want to keep touring, and I don't know. Musically, I just hope that I continue to grow, and I hope I never get what's a word, lost in my own creativity. I hope I always
have
stay
something.
Yes.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Maggie Lindemann from Slam Dunk Festival 2023. And that's the end of the show for another week, I am afraid. But don't you worry, we will be back next week. But if you can't wait until then, social media at The Soundlab Yes on all the socials. And you can also check out the website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk. And make sure you find us on our fresh Spotify playlist too. And we will be back next week for another episode of Interviews Unedited. Goodbye.